Greetings and salutations. It's Dave Dufort of the DIG Agency. We're doing it live, back with another Ask Me Anything live stream where you have the questions and I have all of the answers, at least in the insurance, sales, and marketing space. So if this is your first time here, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you. Let me give you an overview as to what to expect. Any questions that you have for me on the DIG Agency, on selling insurance, on sales scripts related to insurance, leads questions, carrier questions, anything related to sales and insurance, then what I would absolutely recommend that you do is use the feature below, the chat feature, and then ask your questions for me. And then what we're going to be doing is answering them for you. Now, well, of course, as I get started here, I was going to try to film some shorts off of this thing. And let me delete a few videos here because my iPhone is full. And I think we're good there. Perfect. So let me get this started. We're doing it live, folks, so you get all this stuff happening as it happens. Okay. Well, maybe I won't be able to do shorts today. All right, forget it. All right. So before we get started, though, I always like to have a topic of some sort to discuss with you to warm things up as we wait for your questions to come in. And also, please hit the like button if you're watching this live or recorded. That helps share this video across the YouTube algorithm. So more agents like you get to learn something and hopefully get some value. So one of the things that I've been watching intently is the not just the final expense market, but a variety of different insurance sales markets. You know, we specialize at the DIG Agency in final expense sold remotely. But over the years, I've been in the business since 2011. I have offered different products to agents at various times and somewhat keep a tab on how things change, improve, get worse. And what I want to talk about today is the shape of what's known as the ACA market. The ACA market, ladies and gentlemen, is toast, at least for the agent. What was a hot run really over the last 4+ years has come to a screeching halt as the business model has changed, it's tightened up, and has become almost impossible. I don't say impossible, but it is not nearly as marketable as it used to. And the reason I'm sharing this with you today is so that you guys out there can have at least some context as to what's going on with ACA. Maybe you're thinking about selling health insurance. And I'm not discouraging you from doing it. I'm just giving you some on-the-ground facts about what's happening and what's changing so that you can take this into consideration if this is something you're thinking about selling. Because in my opinion, with the current administration we're in, and this isn't a political podcast at all, I'd refrain from politics, but it is a no-nonsense analysis of really how things have changed and how that'll impact you, the agent. And then you decide if it's good, bad, or ugly. That's for you to decide. So what I'm going to do here is actually share my screen. I'm going to lower my video, and then I'm going to show a document. I have to thank somebody on Reddit for posting this, and I've fact-checked the Redditor and pulled up a couple of data points here that have either passed or are going to finalize that are really going to change things, how ACA is sold, and in my opinion, make it a much neutered market versus something like final expense. So first of all, a big change coming is a pause of the low-income special election period. Reading the text here, and then I'll conceptualize it for you. A federal rule finalized in June this year will pause year-round special election periods for individuals at or below 150% of the federal poverty level from August 25th this year to the end of 2026. So why is that important? Because over the past couple of years, this has been a year-round opportunity, special election period. You could write people up that were allegedly at a certain income range into a plan that you could then sell them regardless of it being in or out of open enrollment, which is the end of the year. And so what this allowed us to do in the ACA space is to sell health insurance at a large marketable rate throughout the year. This is now gone. And so what's happening now, there may be some state-based ones out there I'm unaware of, but from an overarching federal rule, this is preventing a lot of the sales that other agents otherwise would be getting. So it's going to be a much thinner pool of prospects to hit on when it's not open enrollment. Now, to add insult to injury for ACA, the open enrollment is now shortened. Reading line 2 here. This is nearly finalized. It hasn't been 100% finalized, but it's most likely going to happen. The marketplace integrity rule officially codifies open enrollment period as November 1st to December 15th, eliminating the previous extension to January 15th. But only for federal exchanges, meaning probably, 30, 35 exchanges. There's some state-based exchanges like, I think, Georgia, I think California. They may have different ones. And it's starting in plan year 2027. So I think that means next year's open enrollment. Now, what this means is that instead of having, it was like 60 days plus, you now have 45 days to get somebody switched into a plan. So there's just less opportunity to close people at the most closable time of the year. So the idea behind that, I imagine, is shortening open enrollment period lower means less people enrolling, which is less expense. This is the big thing here. Finalized for federal exchanges, pre-verification of QLE documentation. The idea behind this, is self-attestation of income. What I mean by this is number 13. Applicants must submit documentation unless income is verified by federal data. No peer self-attestation. In other words, what this meant is that you could just claim your income is whatever in order to get your number below whatever percentage you're looking for a complete subsidization for, right? And so this was absolutely gamed by agents and clients alike. And what was invariably happening is that people would lie about their income. There would be no real, what's the word I'm looking for? Verification of that income. Granted, if you did that, you didn't prove it with tax income statements, then I believe it would come back to haunt you. But the truth is that now at the time of application, if you're saying you're a certain income and you want a subsidy, you got to prove it. And so this again is another, wrench in the cogwheel of the machine that'll make it more difficult to sell. So it's not that ACA or health insurance is going away per se. It's just going to be much more difficult to mass enroll a lot of people because of a shortened enrollment period, a higher difficulty in writing people throughout the year. And so in my opinion, right now, what does this mean to you? It means if you're looking to get into the health insurance space, it is going to be less of an entry or easier entry to get into than it was over the past couple of years. Another thing that changed dramatically a couple of years ago is there was this brief period of time for 3 or so years where you could enroll people without ever talking to them, the no dial system as it was called. And you could do that legitimately, but what agents and call centers were doing is they were just enrolling people without their knowledge into the plan, without their consent. And there was a big call center in the Southeast Florida area that went under. And I don't know where they are from a lawsuit standpoint, but I think the government went after them. I mean, and they enrolled all sorts of people in it in this way, allegedly. Innocent until proven guilty. So it's just dramatically tightened. And the reality is in insurance, you kind of have to be like Madonna. You have to change with the times. You have to be aware of what's going on in the marketplace. And you got to know when the time is right to triple and quadruple down. And then you got to know when the time is to take your assets and investments and then put them into another product. Like looking back now, I think one of the things that, I guess I don't want to say I regret, but I wish I realized earlier on in 2019 and 2020 was this mass opportunity in ACA. I wish I would have quadrupled 10x that on some level alongside of building my final expense agency. Because it was this limited time opportunity to mass scale the writing of ACA plans in a way that you just can't duplicate now. And a lot of people made a lot of money that were able to see that and witness that as being an opportunity. So you start to see this more the longer you're in the business, is that there's really not products that stay the same. Even something like Final Expense, which is a steady Eddie type of product, it's definitely waxed and waned. There's a huge upsurge of interest in the agent population from about 17 to 22, and a lot of the MLM starters have exited through private equity, and the business is still hot. We're still recruiting a lot of people, but it seems like things have quieted down relative to 5 years ago, right around when COVID started. So, but the point is, when you're looking at business, you're looking at products to sell, be aware of the marketplace that you're in. This is why I like Final Expense, because final expense is not a government good. Health insurance is a government product. It's a public product on some level, and it's going to be affected by who is running the administration or who's in charge, and what their political objectives are. If it's to make it easier and to pass subsidies along and make life easier for the people or not, right? Or is it time to tighten up and have a sense of, tightening things up? Right now, we're in that phase. And anytime you're involved in selling products like that, you cannot avoid the realities that the politics play and how it impacts your product lineup. Medicare is kind of seeing some level of this too as well, although I think ACA is the biggest change. That's what, again, all said and done. That's why I like life insurance products. I really like final expense because it really hasn't changed. The products have stayed the same. The marketplace is growing. It's duplicatable. It's scalable. You can build an agency and scale that way too as well. And I don't see it ever slowing down. And it certainly doesn't involve the government on some level, which is a good thing, to say the least. So long story short, think twice about selling ACA. Make sure you really understand the market and have a good strategy that would work, even without these kind of like long-standing multi-year special election period opportunities that have kind of gone to the wayside. It might be worth considering sitting out until the next ACA opportunity comes back, maybe with an administration change in the next couple of years. Or not, who knows? It's hard to say. All right, so now let's shift gears and answer your questions in the chat. Let's start with Sean. Hey, Sean, I'm at a crossroads here. I'm looking for a company to commit to. What in the brief overview of your company, what is the brief? Okay, yeah. So allow me, audience, to pitch, if you will, really briefly. So in short, if you want to sell insurance remotely from home, using free leads and have superior training, that's what the DIG Agency is all about. Whether you're new or experienced, the DIG Agency is focused on helping agents become top producers. Our biggest unique selling USP points, selling propositions, high quality self-generated leads. We don't buy data or crap, and they're free to you. Amazing technology supported by AI. We have AI sales call reviews, which are incredible at helping you get better. Regular sales calls, trainers that come on and help you close, provide you insight on your sales presentations live as you're pitching, and then multiple meetups, videos you can review, of course, product trainings, etc. It's unlike any other agency. And the last bit of it is the tech itself. We have an incredible dialing system that it's hard to beat the amount of connections to prospects we can make with our dialing system, plus our custom-built CRM. So instead of me pitching it, my advice to you is to go to davidduford.com, watch the overview video. I have tons of case studies. Do a David Duford review or DIG Agency review. You can see all of our reviews. We get tons of them all the time, 5-star reviews. You can read about us, and see what people say who've actually worked with us. All right. And you are 1099 with us too, so you make your own schedule. We take part-timers or full-timers. You work when you want to. I want to sell annuities, but I'm thinking about leading with Medicare. Yeah, this is the strategy I think, Bob, a lot of people use, and I think it works, right? Because like annuities I really don't know of any lead systems that are mass recruited to. I'm sure there are people who use lead systems and keep it private. But there's not a lot of agencies, in my experience, that have like a direct mail or Facebook lead system that they mass recruit people to that can keep them steadily busy with leads. And so what a lot of annuity agents do is they use something else to get a conversation about annuities. Medicare is probably the obvious choice. It's the best choice in some ways because everybody needs Medicare. And typically if you're doing Medicare, you're talking to people retiring or past retirement. And so they're likely going to have concerns about financial issues, right? And so this is where conversation about annuities are great to seg you off of a Medicare presentation. So I definitely agree. I have an agent, Jess Fox, who started with me, I think in 2019 or 2020, selling final expense. And she sold millions of dollars in annuities off of final expense leads because she knew how to pivot off of a final expense conversation into annuity. So it absolutely works. Hold on one second, guys. I got to cough. All right, sorry. All right, continuing on. Edub, hey Dave, I have had my license for a while and never worked for any company. I just want to sell final expense. Highly considering the DIG Agency, but the 40% for the no leads program is quite low. That's fine. If you don't like it, then you're welcome to find another agency that you can get a higher commission on. But the pitch that I would tell you, and this is kind of how I present this, is that yes, it's low, but what are you getting for it? First of all, you're getting sales training that very few other organizations are going to come close to competing with. And don't believe me, go look at our testimonials, all the shorts we've been putting out. These are people that can attest story after story about how the sales trainings helped them sell more. We have technology that very few others actually use. I have talked to competing organizations, some of you have heard of. They have no clue what we're doing to help agents connect to more and sell more insurance, or at least have more opportunities to sell. And then lastly, your leads are free. And the thing is, like, I know there's organizations that I respect that pay more starting their agents off. But what they don't tell you is they're on a single line dialer. They call one dial a time, not multiple lines. They're working data leads or leads that are like 5 to 10 years old. And it sucks. And so, yeah, you can get more commission, but there's way more to the story than what your commission is. What are you getting to leverage the commission? And that's kind of where I've put a lot of emphasis and time on, is building the leverage side out so that you can take a lower commission and leverage it out and have a higher multiplier than something with higher commission, but, you know, a crappy tech stack or junk leads. The other thing I'll mention too is there's a clear path to 50% and even 60% commission as well. So as you produce, there's an opportunity to build that commission level higher, and not within a matter of, you know, a year, a matter of months. So, and it all depends on your capabilities. Okay. Hey, Dub, compared to the other companies, I also thinking about senior life, but recruiting is a big thing for them. I just want to sell. What are your thoughts? You know, my thoughts are you should pick an agency that you vibe well with, that you feel good about, that like reflects what you want. The more that you can define EDub and everybody else what you want from this business in more concrete terms, the better you're going to find an agency. But understand, it's like church, right? Like, you're never going to find the perfect church. You're always going to have things you want and desire, and then things that you're like, you could take it or leave it. The same thing with an agency or a company you work with, right? You got to get as close as possible to the ideal. But, you know, you got to be able to, and so this is why you got to rank what's most important to you. Like, I would say if I were you, knowing where you are, being a new agent at some point myself, I highly leverage training and support. That's critically important. The next thing I highly leverage, knowing about all the lead scams out there, is a lead system that actually is really good. Like, you should have two things there, and there should be evidence and a preponderance of proof that not from the guy pitching it on you, but from their actual agents, that what is being said by the guy that leads the company is actually true. And yeah, you may be kind of like, maybe you want to sell mortgage protection as a final expense, but like at the end of the day, like if you got the things that really matter, that's where you should probably start, especially if you're new. All that stuff is really important. So it's just prioritizing and seeing, you know, who hits the priorities the most and go in that direction, even if it's not perfect. Okay. Hey, Dennis, in your opinion, which is better, selling free leads at a lower commission or buying your own? Also, do you hire agents purchasing their own leads? So in short, no, we don't hire agents purchasing their own leads. You can start with us on our free lead program and then go to a situation where you're buying your own leads at a higher commission with time. That's fine with us. And here's the thing. A lot of new people don't know this, but I recruited agents who bought their own leads for about a decade, 10 years. And what I saw was very frustrating. And it occurred to me to some extent, but it occurs to a lot of agents. They come into the business, they buy and spend a lot of money on leads. They have a bad week early on, like most agents do. It psychologically messes with them. So they think it's the leads. They start buying different leads. Then they have chargebacks coming in, which happens. They don't know how to manage that. So now they're buying and investing in their business from a standpoint of emotion, not logic and long-term thinking. And they start buying worse and worse quality leads or pull back on the leads when they need to double down, and they eventually just wash out. It is a real frustration point that I've seen in this business. And this is why I migrated to a free lead model, because if I can just like wave the magic wand and take most of that away, at least the financial stress element from losing money, it allows you to have the emotional capability to focus on getting good at sales first and foremost, without the stress and the frustration of dropping $1,000 to $1,500 a week, which is really what you need to do telesales right, maybe less for face-to-face. But in all reality, that's why we don't do that anymore. And I would say 90% of agents fall into that camp of they would just be better if they just let somebody else do it and focus on getting good. And a lot of y'all out there, I don't know each of you individually, but a lot of y'all agents really, really underestimate the learning curve of this business, what you have to deal with. And I try to lay it all out there for you, but you don't really know it until you experience it. But I can promise you this, if you're going to go through the things that are difficult in this business, which every agent does in any sort of program, when you put on top of that the financial stress that comes from your family, yourself, and the reaction emotionally that we all have with money, it magnifies the normal stress that any business or straight commission opportunity is going to have. So I just say, to hell with it. Don't deal with it to start. Maybe in the long term, but in the beginning, it's so important to do it right, because a lot of people just leave the business with a chip on their shoulder and frustrated when they didn't have to, if they just let somebody else spend the money and not themselves. Sorry, I just joined. Hey, Wealthy, no problem. If you answer this already, why did you stop Medicare? Yeah. Also, do you know anything about Better Life? I've heard of Better Life Financial Group. I don't know who runs it. If you give me some names, I could probably tell you. But back to your question, I stopped doing Medicare because strategically, I wanted to get involved in just final expense exclusively again. I got too spread out and disseminated in my focus to be effective at any one thing. And I think a lot of businesses think like In-N-Out Burger, Chick-fil-A, like they just do one thing extremely well. And I thought, in business, that's kind of true, even for insurance. Like I want to do the one thing I know and I'm passionate about extremely well. And I think just doing that is going to help recruiting, help our ability to make sales, et cetera. So that's part of the reason we just went back to basics. And then the other thing in Medicare, I didn't really see Medicare being as big of an opportunity that I thought it was in the beginning. The reality is most agents go after the dual enrollment market, D-SNP market. It's a very lapsomatic flip type of business model. You really have to do T65, but there's a sales cycle to that potentially depending on how you sell it. It's just something that, didn't really want to be involved in anymore. And out of the two options, I felt, final expense has some sort of regulatory resistance that Medicare doesn't, being a public good. And I wanted to refocus on that. And it's something that's much more recruitable. The problem with Medicare ultimately is that if you've ever sold Medicare, like you run into cash flow problems because the product doesn't make a lot of money up front, especially after you account for lead generation. So it's just easier to do final expense and recruit in a larger way. All right. What KPIs, key performance indicators, should I shoot for with age leads? Hey, Giga. I mean, how many hours a day you're calling them? That's it. I mean, I don't know what to expect out of leads 6 months or older. It depends on the type of leads, which vary dramatically. I would just try to be on the phone as much as possible. And the key thing you should focus on is getting good at the opening. You're going to have a bunch of objections. You got to overcome them. There's a great video we put out a couple of days ago called the yelling objection or the yelling rebuttal. So when I start telling you on the phone, I didn't do that, I don't know what you're talking about, I'm all set. Like you can hear them reaching for the button to hit hang up. You got to yell at them. And you got to say, hold on, don't hang up. I just helped someone save $50 if that's the case. Customize it to what you actually experience. With our new program, let me get you a quote here. Is this something you're looking on yourself or another? So you have to raise your voice and kind of yell over them, which is counterintuitive to my personality and others too. But you kind of stop them dead in their tracks a lot of times and they'll listen to you. So stuff like that works, and you got to get really good at the opening. True for all insurance sales. I think the opening is the most important part of the presentation, but especially important if you're working leads that are not going to remember doing what you said they did, and are probably going to hold you to a level of suspicion that newer leads won't have as much of. You're welcome, Sean. Keeping up. How you doing? Do you know about the Bedrock Group? Heard of them? Heard of Senior Solutions? I'm drawing a blank on who runs it. That's kind of how I know everybody is by name. They say they send agents on appointments and pay for all marketing in the Medicare side. Yeah, that's cool. If they do that, what are you giving up for that? That's what you want to investigate. What are you getting? What are you giving up? There's always a give and take. Danny, any update on the game-changing lead generating possibility you mentioned last week? No, nothing yet. It's in the works. It's executed. The contract is signed. We're in the process of getting the, I guess you could say, the beta testing going. So hopefully this time next month we'll have a little bit more actual action besides hype. I'm not a hype guy, but pretty excited about what we're doing. So more to come. Ron, I've been attending Jessica Fox's Monday morning Zoom meetings. Cool. Seems like a great opportunity to study for LOA of IUL while waiting on AMAM to come through. What do you think? If you're doing final expense with us, if that's what you're saying, Ron, I would not do anything else other than final expense. It's a distraction. Annuities are complicated. It's not easier than final expense. And final expense, it's simple, but it's not easy. Annuities arguably could be simple, but it's not easy. And trying to do more than one thing at once is not double hard. It's quadruple exponentially hard. It's just, I very rarely see any agents doing more than one product make it in this business. And I've been doing this since 2011. It's part of the reason why we got rid of all these other products. Annuities are just kind of one of those hangovers. And I know Jess well enough, and I get questions frequently enough that I trust her, I like her, she does a good job. So I'd let people go to her. And but I'm not actively endorsing agents should do that, especially if you're in our final expense free lead program. Okay. Julio, hey. On the joining fee, do you have any flexibility in returning a refund if while going through the onboarding phase you realize you don't want to pursue final expense anymore? Shoot us an email and then we will discuss. Final expense insurance. What CRM do you recommend for final expense if you're marketing for leads on Facebook? Anything go high level, FE insurance. The DIG dialer, not DIG dialer. What do we call it? FinalExpenseCRM.com. That's mine, sold at retail. You can check that out. Otherwise, you can look at Agent CRM. They're very good. The CRM game's pretty simple. Like mine or Alex Braining's is fine. It's all you need. I wouldn't complicate it any more than that. Ajit, we're in Minnesota. Make a difference in getting leading or trainings. A difference in getting training or leads approach if you're doing any personal appointments. If you're a new agent here. We don't do in-person appointments with us, Ajit. We just do telesales. If you kind of clarify that a little bit more, I'll be happy to clarify. Okay. Mo Falah. Oh, I've seen that guy. I've seen that guy's stuff. I think he was on Cody's channel. I forget where I've seen him too. I know of him, but I don't know much more beyond that. Hey, Joel, the biggest mistake in my 8-year career is that when I found you last year, I should have just joined your agency on the spot. And now I'm going to have to rebuild and join your agency once I'm able to have the money. Thanks, Joel. Check is in the mail. You can then apply that towards a joining fee. Just kidding, guys. I did not entice Joel to give me that recommendation. Appreciate it. Hey, what's going on? That must be JD, right? Hey, JD. Ben, with the DIG agency, what countries are you able to work from in Central or South America? So any of them, as long as you have a U.S. residency, you should be able to apply for your life insurance license and have a residency in a state. And then at that point, you can sell remotely. The only concern that I have, and it's a hard to answer here, ran into this last week or two with an agent, is we use a pretty data-heavy dialer, a Convoso is what we use. And you need to have a hardwired connection. And we've had issues with some agents in just different parts of the world that they just can't get a connection. The only real issue we've had is a guy that was on, what's Elon Musk's thing? Starlink, whatever it is, in the middle of nowhere. But I don't know to what degree and how much bandwidth his connection have. I don't know if it was weak or strong. And then we had a guy in Africa who, I don't know how he ended up there. He was an American in Africa. And I guess they just don't have strong enough internet there. And so we just, we couldn't work with them as much as we wanted to. So we've talked to Convoso, and they said Central and South America are fine. Just have a good internet connection. And I think that's doable there. So, but if you're in Africa, you're like in the Congo or Somalia, might not work. All right. Hey, Dave, what is the most recent version of the final expense script? And is there any full sales calls that we can review? Hey, Juan. Yes, I actually filmed 2 sales call reviews. You guys are going to see a lot more content on the sales call side, like live sales call reviews from top producers, the good, bad, the ugly. Those are coming on a much more regular basis than we have. If you go click on my channel, you click on videos and you start scrolling through, you'll see some sales calls I've reviewed in the past. But give me like 2 weeks and then you'll see more than you could ever watch. But they'll be very good because they'll teach not just what to say, but why we say what we say. And you can get the script. Let me throw it in the chat at davidduford.com/ISS. Register a free account there, ladies and gents. And then once you do that on the Insurance Success School Forum, then you'll see pinned to the top the script. Then you can download it for free. The Insurance Sales Success Forum is a free sales and marketing site for insurance agents. I have 30 plus hours of deep dives on final expense, Medicare, annuities, ACA. Several of my books are listed there for free. Freebies, my free seminar marketing mastery course for in-person agents, a forum to communicate, lots of good stuff, totally free. Check it out. davidduford.com/ISS. Ding. Hey, Dave. I've been practicing the script as much as possible. It's sounding more natural, but I still have a lot of work to do. Is there a max time you allow for practice before you would like to be on live calls? I mean, if you're in my agency, I want you to practice as much as humanly possible. Up to a point, though, you got to get on the dialer. And that's a subjective thing. But if you practice the script 200 times, is the 201st time going to make much of a difference? Versus like you practice it 10 times, the next 10 times would be different from the first 10 times, right? So it kind of depends on the total volume. We do have the Mildred AI where you can role play with her and she'll give you objections, pushbacks, etc. We usually reserve that before you get on the dial. It's like the last opportunity to like really grind it out and go through it. But at some point, you're never going to be fully polished until you actually get on the phone. And this is where, at least for us, the AI-driven sales call reviews are impeccable. They're very important because they're going to give you feedback on what you did right and what you can improve. And then, of course, our trainers are there to listen in and say, hey, tighten up the tone, or you sound monotone, or be more excited or stuff. So the best thing you can do is continue to review your calls, not just your practice sessions, but the actual real live ones. And you'll learn so much just by doing that. And most of y'all won't do this. You'll just complain and say it's a scam and, it's a ripoff and it's bullshit and, but you just won't listen to your own calls and you won't have a heart of humility to try to be better, and you'll blame people for your problems in life, and then you'll be shocked when you don't get anywhere because you don't take personal responsibility for your shortcomings, which we all have and have to figure out how to do better with. So rant off. In all seriousness, though, you seem like you have the right mindset. You can only get so practiced, and then you got to get on the phone and then continue that review process is what you want to do. Congratulations, Ivan. Thank you. My CRM is $199 a month. The usage fees are wholesale, though, so it tends to be less when you actually use the thing. Agent CRM is $99 or $97. So they're a little cheaper, but they might pay more. They might be more expensive on usage. I don't know for sure, though. Hey, Dean. Good afternoon. Marty and Hitesh are indispensable. Yeah, you're welcome. They're very good. Wealthy Wise. Do agents at DIG Agenecy retain their book? No, not for free leads. Here's the thing, guys. When you have a company that is spending an enormous sum of money on leads and has generated kind of a competency about generating good quality leads, spending an enormous quantity of money on a dialer, a staff that's dedicated to maximizing success, you're not going to own the book or the residuals. Remember the give and take I was talking about with the Medicare? That's how it works with us. my game in this business and recruiting agents is I want to own the book of business and then own the residual stream as well. It's less important for the individual agent to own a final expense residual book. It's not a residual game for the agent, it is for the agency. But the key thing, I think, is having a system to support your ability to earn an income. If you want to build residuals, you really need to get into Medicare. But yeah, so that's the trade-off. The other side of this is if you really feel strongly about owning your book, I don't think it's that important anymore in final expense, or the residual streams, then start with free leads to mitigate your risk, to learn the business. Then you can switch to a broker model with us where you do own your book of business and have residuals. So there is a pathway to getting there. Hey, Ding, kind of a dummy question. There's no dumb questions, just dumb people. But is home Wi-Fi and a laptop adequate? My laptop's pretty good. I would say probably not. And here's why on a couple of accords. Number one, you need to have more real estate space, like visual space. So like 2 or 3 monitors, because you're going to have different tabs open. You have your dialer, you have your script, you've got your quoter, you've got your CRM. One laptop's not going to do it. So you need to have the ability to have multiple monitors, number one. Number two, every single problem we've ever had with any of our dialer is because it's not on a hardwire connection to the computer. It literally solves all the problems, lagging issues, etc., quality of audio if you just have a hardline connection. My opinion is it's absolutely worth your time and money if you want to really do this business right, even without necessarily working with us. Get a simple PC for $300 or $400 or less. Get a couple of cheap monitors, maybe out the door, $600-700. Probably you could get used and spend even less, and do it the right way. It really makes a difference. You have an amazing supportive staff. Thank you. Yeah, we definitely do. Sean, what does the average new agent make in their first 6 months? I'm talking about someone teachable in 40 hours. I can give you some stats on hourly pay. Our best agents are probably making, when you take the back end of the money into consideration, their earnings are going to be on target probably $40 to $60 an hour is what I would suggest. And that's if they're working 40 hours a week, roughly. What I've always said for free leads, this is an $80,000 to $120,000 like top producer income. Can you go higher than that? Yeah. Can you go lower than that? Well, of course. There are a lot of people who join us and they don't take to the training or they never get started and don't make anything, right? So your results may vary. The top end on brokers, I think, is more like 150 to 200. But that's somebody who's really hustling and really has it dialed in. Like that's exceptionally good. But I think with the way our arrangement is, 80 to 120 for top producers is viable. Again, that counts the back end money of what they earn, which you don't get till months 10, 11, 12. So it's a little lower to begin with for sure. But that's true even if you're a broker. You're not going to make the back end money until months 10, 11, 12. So your earnings are lower. And I know that it answered quite the average new agent. I don't know, probably 20, 25 an hour. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't like getting too specific with the numbers because what's average? Average is not what you want to be in this business. I can tell you that. I don't want to I usually get into rants like this. I'm going to try to restrain myself. And I know you're not intentionally trying to get me to a rant. But as a new agent, what you don't want to think of is how can I be average? That's the implication I get whenever everybody says, what's the average income? What's the average earnings? Like, it's not what you want. I can tell you that. What you need to be thinking, what everybody on the phone needs to be thinking, or on the call here needs to be thinking, is that most agents fail across the board 90% in their first year. And it's better with us, but it's still the majority. And what you need to be thinking is, how can I not be like 90% of the other people? Like, how can I be a top 10% agent? I'll tell you what it takes. It takes a commitment to the process, not just for the first month or two, but for the next year or two plus. Meaning you got to show up 40, 50 plus hours a week. you are humble and you actually follow the script and you don't take things personally. You don't get like easily offended when somebody says your tone sucks. They don't ever say it like that with us, but you get what I'm saying. Like, you need to be able to take constructive criticism and you need to apply it immediately. You don't need to take a month to find out and realize and be skeptical, then believe, and then finally decide that, yes, my tone's no good, I need to fix it. You need to do all that inside of a 24-hour period because you want rapid feedback loops where you apply what you learn. And you got to have ability to take a leap of faith here. You're not going to know everything about this business. You're going to have ups and you're going to have downs, and you've got to roll with the punches, man. The better you can withstand adversity, the better. It's straight commissions. It's tough. So, and if you just follow those kind of core tenets, everybody does at first, then you get a big fall off because people kind of go back and revert to what they are, which is, dealing with their own personal demons, whether it's work or emotions. We all have them. And they just can't rise above it. And then the further you go along, the less and less of the people who were there in the beginning are actually there because they've succumbed to the things that are there that they struggle with, like we all do. But you have to overcome that. You absolutely have to. And that's the difference maker. And that's what makes the top 10%. It's not necessarily skill. I was always a top 10% agent, but I'm like just good. I'm like a B agent. I'm around agents who are A plus agents. But the only reason I made it from 2011 to 2017 as an agent is because I just worked harder, longer, and I had short-term amnesia. I forgot all the bad stuff that happened to me, and I just went back to work. And like most people can't do that. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back here, but I'm trying to relay to you guys who are starting or thinking about starting like this. Don't be deluded and think that this is going to be easy for you. It's not. It's going to be difficult. And you need to get over that and just realize, like, you need to be thinking at all times, how can I be exceptional? How can I not be? Don't ask questions about being average. Ask questions about being exceptional. What are the activities I need to do? Because that's the only way you might have a shot at being successful is going further and longer and stronger than the other guy. Okay, I'm done. All right. Sorry about that. I know that wasn't your question with the average, but I got triggered. All right. Mark, hey, Dave, if someone comes on part-time, how many states are they required? 6 states. We go over it with you. You don't have to buy it up front anymore. You don't have to buy licenses. You don't even have to be licensed to join. You can go through the training as you're getting licensed and pick up the license right before the day you get started. So, we'll go over that. It's based off your birthday, but it's about a $500 investment. Dave, what's your email? I'd rather get in touch with you. Thanks. Just reply to the team, please. You can also go to the contact box. If you go to daviddufour.com, scroll to the bottom, and then do it that way. Johnny does run his agency through me. He has a free lead organization as well, but he does it separately. I coach and kind of mentor to some extent on what they're doing, but he does a different arrangement. Ding. Yeah, thank you, Dave. I'm also in your agency 3 weeks ago, practicing the script as much as possible with the current job. Also learning about carriers. I should be ready for Mildred in 2 weeks. Cool. Keep it up. Good, Glayla. Nice to meet you. Hey, Chris. Last call for questions. We're about 15 minutes before we wrap it up. So if you got questions, throw them out there. I'll answer them until the top of the hour. Chris, I may have misunderstood Marty on a previous call, but I asked how old are your oldest leads, and I think he said 7 days. No, that is incorrect. Our oldest leads, I don't know, a couple of months. It's, again, I know, Chris, rant time. I know this isn't what you're asking, but let me explain something very important. And I discovered this by being a lead vendor and spending millions of dollars on leads and doing this for years now. It's less about the age of the leads, and it's more about the quality of the leads. Now, all else equal, you want fresher leads that have been called the least, if not at all. That's the highest proportion of pickups are absolutely going to be people within the first 3 to 20 calls, right? That's where you're going to get most of your sales. However, The reality is that quality leads, even when they're aged, close at a similar rate. It just takes more calls to get them past, to get them to pick up. Because that's what you're facing with aged leads that are good, is that a lot of them just don't pick up because they just don't pick up anyway. You know, the chances of getting somebody to call in the first 10 attempts is infinitely higher than getting them to call the next 10 attempts after the first 200. So 201 to 210, probably not going to pick up very much at the same rate as 1 through 10. Does that make sense? But what we found in our close rate is that when they do pick up and you deal with the objections, like the close rates aren't that far off. It just takes way more time to get through to them and to eventually cycle to and talk to them. But it's not like it's some sort of completely different scenario. The likelihood that you have somebody, and it's aged because they've never picked up, typically. But the likelihood that they're in this circumstance and they're not picking up for you, they're not picking up for anybody else either. So the first person that talks to them probably has a pretty clear shot at actually getting somewhere with them. So I say this not to rant, but to hopefully try to change your perception on leads. A lot of people who suck at this business like to use, again, I understand why they're saying this. I probably shouldn't be so rantish, but they'll use the leads as an excuse to their, they just aren't any good. They don't follow the script. They're just narcissists. They don't take responsibility. But with that said, look, there's leads out there that are terrible, but they're data leads or they're shared leads in the sense that they're not generated the same way. They think it's about a government program, not about life insurance. Like those age leads are terrible because the lead's terrible. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So without all else being equal, if it's a quality lead, it's pretty good aged or up to a point. Is it good 5 years from now? Probably not. Good a year now? I don't know. But we've seen pretty good results, even if they're aged, as long as they're quality leads. And we self-generate our own stuff, so we would know. But I would say probably, a couple of months old is kind of what you're looking at on average. We eventually, at a certain point, it just doesn't make sense to dial them, not because you can't make sales to them, but like they just don't statistically pick up. In other words, I don't know what the exact number is, but like back to my point I made earlier, if I've dialed these people 200 times and they've never picked up, like at some point it's a waste of my resources and my company's resources to get you to dial this. I'd rather just have you dial something that's more statistically probable to pick up. So that's kind of why we eliminate them, is it's just a waste of money and time. Are there limits? Are there time limits for each call? No, Glayla. Like, talk to these people as long as possible, get them to buy. That's what I would say. So what's a realistic income first year? I don't know. More than zero, although a lot of people don't make anything. Less than 200,000. I don't like that. I don't like that. Well, realistic, it's subjective. I know it seems like I'm hemming and hawing, but I don't know you or an individual who's listening here and what they're capable of. I know that some people that follow the system realistically could make six figures. Not a lot do. But a lot of it depends on you, man. I guess that's what my pushback is. And if I start saying, no, the realistic number is 50,000. For a lot of people, that's not realistic because they don't have what it takes. They don't adhere to the training. They don't show up and work. So it's not realistic. And for some people, that's grossly inaccurate. Like it's realistic they can hit it, but they could probably hit a lot higher too. So I don't like giving out firm numbers for that reason. It's unrealistic. Sorry. Hopefully you know where I'm coming from. Not trying to be a jerk. Great advice, says Sean. I appreciate your transparency. I need a jet. Cool. See ya. What do you do? I do nothing. Danny, I have sold pre-planning, and by the way, 10 minutes left. You got questions, so I'm out there. Pre-planning for a cremation company. Do you think selling this is about the same difficulty or harder? That was a mix of face-to-face and virtual. Probably. I don't know. It's going to be very similar. It's about peace of mind and protecting loved ones against final expenses. The nice thing that what we can do is we can shop around. You're not pushing product. You have different products you can choose from if you work with us. You're a broker, so you can design the product according to what the client's budget is. So in some ways it's easier. I would say in some sense selling over the phone is unique. I don't know if I would say it's harder than face-to-face. Some people are more adept to face-to-face sales and telesales. I would fall into the face-to-face. Like I'm more of a face-to-face guy than telesales. So you got to assess your own capabilities. Like how do you feel about selling on the phone? It's different than in person. It's a different cadence completely. So yeah, okay, you had virtual mixed in. Yeah, it'll be similar but different. No, onions are terrible for me. I'll just leave it at that. All right, last call for questions before we wrap it up. Of course, if you're interested in joining the DIG Agency, go to daviddufour.com. We actually have a Q&A call tonight. If you'd like to learn more, have more questions, it is at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. daviddufour.com. Scroll down to the Q&A link. You can register there. We also have Q&As throughout the week, Monday through Saturday, I think. So multiple times to keep it convenient for you as well. All right. All right. Any more questions before we wrap it up? Do a 10 count, and then we'll be done. All right. Hit the like button too if you don't mind. Subscribe, do all that stuff. I appreciate it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for being here. Appreciate you. We'll see you next week. We have lots of new content coming out this week, so make sure to stay tuned. And thank you for your time.